sit on her banks when I'm feeling low. She plays with my spirit and she eases my bones. She's the finest old lady that I've ever known. My daddy was blinded.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to start the meeting out by explaining why I'm calling the meeting to order. When the elections for board members changed to November a couple of years ago, the board elects officers in January when new board members would take office. And so we just elect every year in January. So technically we haven't elected officers, and it's one of the ways to have this meeting conducted through the election of the board president is to have the superintendent call the meeting to order and preside until board president is elected, which is almost our first order of business. Right now, if I could have a motion to accept the agenda, and we would note, Nancy, that all board members are present. Joel Raditz is here via technology tonight. May I have a motion to accept the agenda with one change? We are going to move the celebration of Matt's success to right after the organizational meeting because we have a guest here who has to travel tonight. So I'll make that motion. Motion by Tom, seconded by Shelley. If all in favor, say aye to accept the agenda. Aye. All opposed? Aye. Okay, motion passes. And at this time, the chair recognizes Tom Owens.
On July of 2009 is when I was selected as board president originally. And you guys have been gracious enough to let me be board president for since that time. And during that time, I served with 11 board members, but I did talk to Dale tonight, I think it was 12 different people. And I have to say that all of them have been the most dedicated people I've ever met. They aren't in it for money. They aren't in it definitely for the glory, that's for sure. None of us are. We do it because of the kids and because we care about matters. All of us. Okay. Countless hours going into this. And you guys know that, how much time we put into this. I don't think anybody has any idea how much time it goes unless you are a school board member or a superintendent. In the last 4 years, we've accomplished a lot of good stuff at the school, and I hope everybody understands that on the board. We did the MASP board development process, which is the only district in the state of Michigan that has accomplished that. That's quite a feat for us to do that. We developed a strategic plan, which took another countless hours. Did the performance contracting, which we had to do pretty much because of the bond issue not passing. Okay, and that saved the school a lot of money overall. And we've done something else. We've done the roof at Kennedy, which hadn't been done in how many years? 45 years. We put a roof on it. I don't consider that frivolous spending at all. New boilers. I know we've done a ton of stuff at the school to upgrade things that had to be done so we have a school for our kids. Okay. Closed Kennedy School. That saved, what, $200,000 a year roughly? And energy costs, maintenance costs, everything. We bought new buses, which you have to have for the kids. We chartered a statewide cyber school, which has brought extra money into the school. We started Yes Academy, which brought additional revenue into the school. These are all things we've done that are good. I mean, we have a good things we've done. We implemented the Apple one-to-one initiative, and I consider that good. And if people don't remember, that was brought in by Bob Olson, our former superintendent. And we had Dell. And I think Apple has been a huge success in Dell. Okay? And that one, and I want to say this. The one-to-one initiative money is money from the FILT money, which initially, and I think Howard could correct me, is Howard here? Correct me if I'm wrong, that money is FILT money, that we buy the Apple computers out of. The FILT money was initially to be used for upgrades to facilities and for our kids. It was never meant to go in the general fund. We've had very few layoffs considering what our neighbors are going through around this area. We balance multiple budgets with minimal impact to kids and families who we serve, even though we have a declining enrollment and declining revenue. We worked with John on numerous issues, and myself as board president, I've been through the death of a superintendent, appointing and interviewing and appointing an interim superintendent. And Howard, thank you again for that. You got us through a really rough time there. And we went through an interview process and selected a new superintendent. And also had suffered the loss of a board member, and that would be my friend and mentor, Darren Forrest. Darren taught me a lot. We all miss him today. You know, we filled tons of vacancies because of board members getting off the board because of deaths and other things, and that took a lot of interview and time. Okay? So, with that said, I guess I've said quite a bit in a short time, but we've done a lot, guys, all of us. And with that said, I'd like to make a nomination of Dr. Paul Untitled for our board president. And Paul, I'm sure you're going to do a great job. I wish you a lot of luck, and I'll give you 110% support. Anything you do.
Are there any other nominations for board president? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. Maybe we do need a motion. Motion to close the nominations and to elect Paul Untitled as board president. Is there a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Paul Wermeister, Jim Thompson, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, roll call. All right, thank you, Shelley. All right, Nancy, if you'll do a roll call vote.
Dr. Untitled?
Yes. Yes.
Thompson? Wermeister?
Yes.
Joel?
Joel?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Johnson? Yes. Thompson? Yes. David?
Okay, unanimously passes, and at this point, Paul, you assume the presidency and the chair of the meeting. Thanks.
Tom, that was a very heartfelt summary of a lot of what's happened. And it kind of welled up inside me too, thinking of, I've only been here for a couple of years myself. We have been through a lot. We've had a lot of changes. And one thing we have to realize is that no matter the changes, no matter who's on the board, we move forward and we get the job done. Okay?
Thank you, Paul.
Do I have any nominations for vice president?
Yes, I would like to nominate Tom Willis.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. don't believe we need to actually have a roll call to
To be.
close it.
Not, it can be a motion to
Vice President, you roll call.
close
Oh, yes.
and elect.
Okay. If there are no other nominations, do I have a motion to close the nominations for Vice President? Okay. First by Shelley, second by Chris. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Wormeister?
Yes.
Dr. Antle? Mr. Raddatz?
Yes.
Dr. Antle?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Congratulations, Tom. Do I have any nominations for secretary? Chris nominates, any second?
Second.
Jim seconds. Any discussion? Any other nominations? If there are no other nominations, I need a motion to close the nominations. Motion closed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, first by Paul, second by Jim. Roll call, please.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Wormeister?
Yes.
Mr. Raddatz?
Yes.
Dr. Antle?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Joel really isn't part of your end, it's just head nominee. He heard that. Do I have any nominations for the office of treasurer?
I would like to nominate Paul Wermeister for that position.
Okay, motion by Shelley, do I have a second? Okay, second by Chris. Do I have any other nominations? Is there any discussion? If not, I need a motion to close nominations.
So moved.
First by Jim, any seconds? Second by Chris. Okay, nominations are closed. How about a roll call?
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Wormeister?
Yes.
Mr. Raddatz?
Yes.
Dr. Antle?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Congratulations, Paul. All right. That being accomplished, we move on to establishing meeting dates and times.
The corresponding dates with known conflicts are, and the conflicts are generally only for the work study session, but those are in your board packet with correspondence. Second and fourth Wednesdays, unless there's a conflict on the fourth Wednesday.
We've all reviewed these. Is there any further discussion about these? Or
How come we have the July 23rd?
Oh, you know what, we generally have not had a July study session, and Nancy just, I didn't tell her that. We generally,
Actually, it is on there as no work study.
Right.
oh, it is on there, it's no work study. Oh, okay.
it is crossed out.
It's crossed out. So
Just
like,
because we don't
did
have
talk about it. Just generally, we've taken 2 months, July and December, where we haven't had the work study session because of 4th of July vacations and then Christmas break. and that type of stuff.
Any other discussion? Do we need to make a motion to approve those?
Yes.
Do I have a motion? Okay. First by Chris, second by Paul. Okay. Everyone okay with that? Say yes.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes.
And then I ask a question. Slate of officers in its entirety, a motion. Do we need that? It's listed on the roster for the entire slate of officers? Or did we do that by virtue of individual motion?
We did that by.
Thank you.
So, we are changing the agenda just slightly, because John had mentioned that we are moving on to celebration of MAP success. We have an outside presenter. This is Calvin Clark, I believe. The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, it's just a quick intro for Calvin. I'm Ken Blake, Shells Tech Director for the district, and I've worked with Calvin for the last few years. He's our Apple sales executive, and he's been an excellent person to work with as far as helping us to find resources to make our program stronger, having suggestions on technical things, and I'm going to turn it over to Calvin.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you all. Let's see if I can light this up.
Yes.
The shortest slide deck I've ever presented. 4 slides. Again, I'm Calvin Clark. I'm the account executive for West, North, and UP of Michigan, working in the Apple Education Division. I'm out of Grand Haven, Michigan. So likewise, I see a lot of snow along the lake as you do. It is. I started in 1987 with Apple and have been calling on schools, colleges, universities, and K-12 ever since. The Apple commitment to education dates back over 30 years. Many of you might remember having Apple 1s or 2s or any kind of early Apple computer in our schools. And Apple has really worked through the Apple Classrooms of Tomorrow over the years, worked with the 21st Century for Learning organizations, and has a real vision for what it means to transform education with technology. Really differentiating the difference between a technology initiative and a learning initiative. So Apple has found excellence in a number of varieties of that I'm going to talk about here in a second. And we find these exemplary schools throughout the nation. And the Apple Distinguished Programs and Apple Distinguished Schools, of which MAPS, Manistee Area Public School High School, is now considered a great honor to recognize the high school as an Apple Distinguished School. The Apple Distinguished School is one of 200 schools, K-12, and colleges and universities in the nation. With 100 K-12 schools recognized by Apple worldwide, most of them in the United States, MAPS has a very distinguished recognition. And we only have a handful of them in the state. And it's really it's really exciting for us because we have this vision for education, and you have demonstrated what we consider the 5 prominent areas. Visionary leadership. People that can see how important it is to have students using the best technology, learning in the best environments, and working with the greatest digital materials. Innovative learning, teaching and learning. Bringing the right leadership, bringing the right attitude in the classroom. Hopefully you're seeing that in your classrooms. You're definitely seeing it in a lot of your outputs. Putting a commitment to professional learning, professional development for your teachers and administrators. Compelling evidence of success as was documented and presented to Apple. Some successes, both numerical successes and anecdotal successes. And building a flexible learning environment. A learning environment where you're building career and college-ready students. Students that can go on and fit in and work in the 21st century jobs that we're having. We're very excited about this, and we'd just like to say congratulations. There is a banner that can be displayed in the school. It's about 6 or 8 feet long, and there's a plaque that you'll be able to put in your display case. And most importantly, I think, is that you don't have to be in one of the big cities in America to have some of the best education happening anywhere. And we recognize that. And although it's not in the neighborhood of a lot of schools, I know a lot of schools contact you. Ken has been gracious enough to work with schools on the phone, and I don't know if you've done FaceTime with anybody yet, which is a video one-to-one. And he's already making an impact to other schools. One of my colleagues in Ohio that Ken worked with went on to put a very large one-to-one Apple initiative in place with many of the things that they learned from the conversation with Ken. So Manistee Maps has been able to extend your reach of what it is that you're doing here at the school to help other schools. And that will continue. One thing I wanted to show you was that if you're not familiar with it and you have an iPhone or an iBook or an iPod, you can download the iBook that was put together by Ken and the folks up here, and it walks you through all the different areas that I discussed about what it is that's so special about this place. And that Apple recognizes that that's very special, very unique, and something that we want to tell everybody. I was talking to Ken before. We have a community online site inside of Apple. It's called The Village, and with permission from MAPS, this book will be available to every Apple education employee to be used and talked about with schools throughout the nation and throughout the world. So congratulations again. Very happy to be here, and I look forward to coming up again and seeing the banner fly.
Thanks, Calvin.
Does the board have any questions for Calvin?
I had one, but not necessarily for Calvin, actually for Ken. Ken, this program is, Apple does not give us free computers, so I would like you to talk about how we have afforded this program and its true cost to the district.
The real overarching financial model that we're trying to use with this program is to provide technology by offsetting the expense of the technology through other means. Because when we ended up analyzing what kind of educational resources we've made available to the students and to the teachers, we get a lot more mileage out of some of the tech-based pieces that we can end up using. We're able to provide a lot better resources, a lot better tools. It gives teachers a lot more than they can end up doing. And that's been one of the most exciting things, is that our teachers have really stepped up and have really changed how they're teaching, made things considerably better for our students, and are doing some really exciting things. And it hasn't been easy. There's been a lot of professional development offered and things like that. So big hats off to our teachers for all the efforts that they have made to help make this program a success. But getting back to the financial point, what we've ended up doing is through a few key areas, purchasing of textbooks, paper reductions. We've been able to end up doing some things as far as personnel with some of our aides, because before what we ended up doing is have an aide a lot of times for special needs students to read tests and things like that. We've been able to use technology to help some of those accommodations to build lifelong skills to help those students. There's been a variety of different things that way where we've been able to offset the expenditures for the technology. In the case of the high school, it is a net zero cost. We're not there yet at the elementary level. We're really in our first big year at the elementary as far as our one-to-one deployment. In the next few years, we're hoping that we'll end up getting to a net zero expenditure state at the elementaries also. So basically, I think the simplest way to put what we tried to end up doing is we tried to play smarter instead of spending more money or working harder, if you would. There's been a lot of hard work that's been involved in it, but just trying to end up using our limited resources in the best way we possibly can to provide the best opportunities for teachers and for students.
Any other questions or comments? I'd just like to say, coming from when we first instituted the one-to-one program with adult computers, one of the key things that was missing was the teacher buy-in, the professional development. That really wasn't supplied with that. You can only do so much with a computer. You have to really be taught how to do it, and then go beyond. And that's one thing I think that Apple really excelled with our instruction, our ongoing activity. And that's something that we obviously need to keep on doing. We've made great strides. There's tons of teachers out there in the program that are great at doing that. There's others that need a little help, so that's why we need the ongoing development for that program. I also love hearing little leaders. I mean, this is a small town here, Manistee. You might not think much of us, but look out. We're coming. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Could I add another comment?
Yes.
So, play off, and I know time is limited, I appreciate it. One of the things that makes this program so unique is the systematic approach, the systemic commitment. You talked about teacher buy-ins. There's about 55 schools in the state that have at least one grade or building or some kind of one-to-one. But what really, truly set this out is that a lot of those one-to-ones were started with bond money. And although that has traditionally been a way to fund technology in this state, the approach that you've taken has this commitment from your leadership has made it so teachers know that that equipment's not going away in 3 years because we don't have any bond money left. You've made it part of the culture here, and Apple recognizes that, and it's really, it just sets you apart. You just can't speak highly enough of it. Congratulations.
Thank you. Go ahead, John. Okay. Appreciate it.
January across the state, and I'm not even sure, maybe across the country, is School Board Member Appreciation Month. And so one of the things that we do is we recognize the volunteers that serve our community as schools. And I say volunteers because it's very important for people to know, and I say this every year, and I'm going to say it every year as long as I'm a superintendent. These board members are not paid. They get paid nothing. A lot of other councils or boards around, there's a stipend for showing up for a meeting. There is none here. And in fact, there are costs associated with being a board member. You all chipped in tonight. I'm not going to say for what, because that's a surprise, but you spent money tonight. There's also a family cost. I know one, Chris, Jim, and Tom are missing kids' events right as we speak tonight. To serve all kids in this community. And, we have a lot of stuff going on, a lot of tough decisions that this board has had to make over the years. And people can disagree with the decisions, and that's America, and that's understandable. But what I will tell you to a person is that we have people who care about this district, spend tremendous amounts of time, and really have the best interest of the kids and the community at heart. And I just want to personally thank you, and thank you on behalf of the community for everything it is that you do. So thank you very much. Julia, we'll get you Joel. And Julia. continue Joel's.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the schools too. Anything else to be said? We are going to move back now on the agenda. The public communications. We have been inconsistent in how we manage public communications in the past. We try and spell it out. But we have given people longer than they're allowed to read. We have included things that were not on the agenda at the first public communications. And what we need to try and do is we need to be consistent. That is our thought. And I think about it kind of as an analogy. If I were a teacher and if I have a classroom, I've got certain rules, regulations that I use to keep my kids in line, that I use to go ahead and do what we need to do. If something happens with one child who does whatever they want to do, it affects everybody else in there. So for the purposes of keeping things working, we have rules. So I'd just like you to think about that in the future. The other issue to put out there is, we do want to hear the input when you have public communication. It is important for us to have as many people show up here and let us know what you're thinking. Okay? You do have other ways of doing that. You've got our emails, you've got our phone numbers, and we try and be as accessible as possible. But this is the one place where you can address all of us as a whole. The only thing is, because it is our meeting and we're running it a certain way, we like to hear and we want to give everyone a chance to speak. But what we've been taught to do is to really not address directly the concerns or comments at the time that they're stated. Okay? That is why we're getting your phone numbers, your emails, in order for us to go back to you at a later date afterwards and to let you know or to clarify things. Okay? And so we will be sticking to that. Okay? So, this is our first board communication. The purpose of the agenda is for persons to address the board. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per individual. This comment period is only for those items that appear on the agenda. There will be a second public comment period at the end of the meeting for any other items. Okay? We also have a tradition now, or a protocol, where if you do want to speak and address the board, there's a form for you to fill out before the beginning of the meeting. Shelley, do you have any?
Yep. These forms are always Nancy always sets them right at the front of whatever building or meeting room we're in, and you must fill out a form. There's a top portion that says agenda communication. The only thing that can go up there is an item that is going to be on that night's agenda, and then the second portion is for general communication, and that's our public comment at the end. We are going to be very consistent. I have a timer, and you're allowed 3 minutes to speak. So since I elected again to be the secretary, I will continue to run the timer. So the first person that we have is Mrs. Ann Bypass, and she would like to speak about the facilities plan.
Hey, how are you tonight? Is Mr. Blanchard here? That I noticed on the minutes that he was supposed to be here?
He cannot make it because of the
The
weather.
weather, I thought that was probably
He'll
going
be
to
here in
happen.
February.
Yeah. But anyway, I would like to talk a few minutes about the construction of a new track, and I'm hoping when he does come, he's going to be able to give us a price on how much it is going to cost to do a new track. And I understand we've got the fundraising and those kind of things, and from the minutes, it did read that the money for the construction of the track is not going to come from the general fund. But I'm curious as to where then you're going to find that money to construct the new track. And further, could those funds that you're going to use to build a new track, could that be used to help pay for some of the other athletics that have gone over budget, if you will, or support the pool system? So those are some of my questions, and I guess I'm really concerned public-wise how this will look building a new track when we have an unsettled contract with our teachers with that. One of the other questions that I have is not only just the construction cost of it, but this is, and I know this is what got us in trouble with the pool, is we did not think about the upkeep and the maintenance that was going to be ensued with the pool. And so when you do talk to Mr. Blanchard, I really hope that you do keep that in mind as to the maintenance and the upkeep of the track, because I know that probably is going to come out of the general fund. So those are some of my concerns. And I'll tell you, I know we need a new track. I mean, that track is horrible. But we need to think about some of the things on public perspective here and how is it going to be paid for once it is built. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
We are moving on to board or committee reports. There are none. Okay. Correspondence and superintendent's report.
Yeah, as I just mentioned, Terry Blanchard from GMB was going to come and talk about how the process that we would use to develop the facilities plan. And he couldn't make it tonight because of the weather. The thing I do want to impress tonight is that this is a service that they provide free to their clients, so there's no cost to the maps for conducting and putting together a comprehensive facilities plan. And there are, a plan is, you know, you start out with a wish list and then you narrow it down and you narrow it down to the things that you're actually going to accomplish or in some cases need to accomplish. So, so there actually is no plan, I would say, to build a track. It's been discussed, but it's not a plan. It's kind of on that dream list right now, and it's something I know that will be discussed as we put the plan together, whether it actually makes the plan, what phase is it in. Those are all questions that yet have to be answered. So he will not be here tonight. Any questions on that? He will be here in February unless we have bad weather. Anything on items B and C under okay, and then finance report, I'd like to turn that over to Howard, and I've asked Howard to talk about a number of different things that he'll touch on tonight.
All right, well, I'll start out, Ken, I've got just a few slides I want to share with everybody. But I want to start out with the finance report that goes out every month in your board packet. Apologize that didn't go out with the first time the board packet went out, but we were putting that together before the month even so we could do a finance report. But we did get that out to you right after New Year's, and a few points here I just want to make. Things this time of the year are always look a little lopsided. When you look at our revenues, you'll see that we've only received 20% of our revenues, yet we've expended 40% of our expected expenditures. This is typical for this time of the year. It has to do with the timing for our cash flow. Our year, of course, begins in July, but we don't start getting state aid until October, so there's always this lag that results in us having to do cash flow borrowing each year. But as you look at this document, I know we talk about this each month, the thing that we need to continue to talk about and focus on is that first column, which is the budget. And the budget that's presented on your finance report has been here since we adopted it. It's our original budget. We have yet to amend budgets. The budget was built on a number of assumptions. As I've said, every time I've talked about this, that's how a budget is formed. You don't know what's going to happen. You make a number of assumptions. And then as you go through the year, you amend the budget. We're in the process of working on amending this budget. The biggest assumption in this year's budget was employee concessions. They've yet to be realized. Administration has made a 5% cut in wages. but we haven't gotten all of the concessions that we had hoped for. So when I bring you an amended budget, seeing as we've been unsuccessful in getting those other concessions, I'll be building in the actual cost rather than those assumed. Will that put us in deficit this year? We don't know yet. We carried in $380,000 of fund equity, 2.8%. We've depleted pretty much our savings. We're doing everything we can to get through this year without going into deficit. I can tell you, as we start work on the 14-15 budget, it is unavoidable to go into deficit with our current labor agreements and what we're paying for wages. We will be in a position where we'll file with the state deficit reduction plan and then start going through that process. As I say that, I just only have a few slides here, but I wanted to share with you a few things. Ken, how do I advance this thing? All right. I borrowed this slide from another school because school districts all over the state are finding themselves in the same position where we're all in a terrible financial crisis. We're going through our fund equity. We're asking employees for concessions, and you feel like you're on an island and you're upset. We value our teachers. We value all of our staff. We know they work hard. We don't want to be in this position, but it's where we are. And I shared this slide because I borrowed this from another district, and again, I know it's perhaps hard to see if you're far away, but it's just a couple of things that they had cited. MLive.com recently reported that Moody's Investor Services had downgraded the bond rating of 53 Michigan school districts. School districts as a whole are beginning to feel the pain. Revenues are not increasing, expenditures are. This is just an indication that we're not in this alone. Also, a professor from Michigan State University recently had a letter published, an open letter to the governor, and then he did some analysis that between 2002 and 2011, real per pupil funding in Michigan schools fell by 24.5%. 60% of that decline was attributed to declining tax effort, i.e. changes in policy that have reduced the amount of money available for school funding. We can all talk about where we spend our money, but no matter where you want to spend it, there's less of it to spend than there has been in years here. We are in a declining revenue state. Not only are revenues down on a per pupil basis, but throughout the state of Michigan and true here at Manistee, there's less pupils, and we get paid per pupil. So it's a tough situation, but we're not alone. I shared this information with you. This is net state funding. State funding is our largest source of revenue. And I have net state funding because we get state funding and then a bunch of it goes right back to the state in the form of retirement. Our retirement costs are continuing to escalate, and that's set by statute. We can't change what we pay for that. So the state gives us money, and then a portion of it we pay right back to them to put into the retirement system. So what I did was net those two. And as you look at it, you'll see back in 2008, which incidentally is when we entered into the last agreement with our teachers' contract, we were in a period where revenue was increasing. Shortly after that, 2009, we were here, we started this downward trend, and revenues have fallen off. During the same period of time, we were in a contract that had annual increases. So we've seen our salaries going up while the revenues took us 1 year of up and then fell off. So it's a tough situation, and I just want to share with you, those are our figures. This is looking at it on a per pupil basis. You can see that same had a good year and then fell off. I mentioned retirement costs. Retirement costs have just soared. Right now, our retirement contribution is over 25%. Every $100 that we pay any employee for the district, we have to pay another $25 into the retirement system. It's a heavy expense, and it takes a lot of our funding, but that's set by statute. We can't opt out of it and change anything. That's the way it is. The next slide, this one's hard to read, but I encourage you to go to our website, honorstudents.org. On the right-hand side, there's transparency reporting. And on the, in the transparency reporting, we have our budget, we have our contracts, we have our audits. This is page 16 of last year's audit. And the number I want to call to your attention is this. And I know that's hard to read, but it shows that last year we spent $575,000 more dollars than we took in. That didn't come as a surprise to anyone at this table. It didn't come as a surprise to anybody who attends our meetings. We adopted a budget that showed that decline. We found ourselves in a situation where we had bargained in good faith contracts, employees that entered into those in good faith, but we didn't have the revenue to support it. The board chose, well, the board had to honor that agreement, and we did. But it came with a heavy cost. We spent $575,000 fund equity last year, dropping our fund balance down to $380,000. Obviously, not sustainable. Even if we wanted to, we don't have the money to spend to continue that trend. So we find ourselves in a very unpleasant position where we're asking employees for concessions. And people say to me, why this group and not that group, or why this or why that? And I want you to share a little bit of information with you, just so you can see that why we're doing what we're doing and what has been done before. Because we've been cutting away here for years. We've closed buildings, we've reduced staff. We've had put together, with John's first year, we put together a committee made up of teachers, parents, administrators. We brainstormed, we created participation fees for sports, we cut travel, we closed buildings. We've been slashing away. But I just want to share this slide with you. This is the history, looking back to the 10-11 year and then going forward to this current year, of wage increases for our different segments of staff. And I'm embarrassed that there's so many zeros here. I wish that we could have done more for our staff, but we haven't had the revenue. If you look at our food service staff, and zeros across the line, a few years ago, 15 cents an hour for the people who were at the top step. Our support staff, parapros, these folks have given, zeros across the line. Back in 10-11, people who had been here 21 years got a nickel. That's all we could do for them. Just don't have the revenue. Custodial staff, tirelessly working group of folks. Not that the rest of us are, but these folks have slaved away and we've reduced numbers significantly. One time we had 15 of them, we're down to 10. They're working away zeros across the line. Clerical staff, who seem to have more and more to do every year, got a 2.9 back in 10-11, zeros. Bus drivers, zeros all the way across. Up here we see some increases, and again, I don't want you to take anything I'm saying. It's me conveying to you that anyone didn't deserve an increase, because that's not my point. My point is that we don't have the revenue to support it. I value every one of our employees. I know we're all working hard, and I believe we're all on the same team. But if you go back, you'll see that we had a 2.9 for the teachers. That was part of a 4-year contract that was extended, and it became a 5-year contract. During the life of that contract, each step increased. If you look at the wage and any spot on the contract before, and then at the end, by 11.67% over the course of that 5 years. That's each step. That's not taking into consideration that as a staff member works through the schedule, they advance on the steps. Steps vary from as little as less than 0.5% all the way up to 15% per year, depending where you are in the schedule. You start out at a lower amount, and as you go through, they advance. So if you were at the top of the salary schedule as a teacher when we entered the last contract, your annual salary's gone up 11.67% since the last contract. If you were somewhere else on the schedule, it's been a larger increase because of those steps. And again, I'm not suggesting that that's bad or anything. I'm just trying to explain that that's added to our increased expenditures. At the same time, our revenue has been declining. But amidst all these zeros, we had a 2.9, and the administrators enjoyed the same increase that year. We're typically tied to the increase that the teachers get. In 11-12, the teachers took a 0. They were supposed to get a 2.8, and they instead extended the contract and took a 2 the following year. That year, administration took a 3% cut. 12-13, administration and the teachers both got a 2% increase. Again, that was a bargained agreement. We were obligated to do that, and administration is tied to that. They're a multiplier of the teacher's contract. So up they went. This year, administration started out their year with a -5%. And not anything any of us wanted to do, but something we felt we had to. It's not any fun. And I feel for anybody who's in this position who's either having to face a cut today or has gone all these years with no increases at all. It's not easy, but there's just not the revenue to support it. So when we look at where are we asking for concessions, we look for equality. We look internally. How does this group, the teachers group who we're asking for concessions, how have they fared compared to the rest of our staff? That was part of it. And then we looked at how are they ranked among some of our peers. And this information I got from each individual school's transparency reporting. I shared it back in May. I compiled this in the spring. I have not updated it since. My point here isn't to say that anyone here is overpaid, just simply that when we look at ourselves in relationship to other districts, we are among the best compensated. And that's not a bad thing, that's a great thing when we can afford it. But right now we can't. But this information, as I said, is available through transparency reporting. We spent a lot of time looking at it. You can compare other schools. Every school in the state is required to have this information online. That's what we did. So we look at how is this group fared compared to our other employee groups, and how are they doing compared to their peers. And that's how we ended up where we are, where we're asking them to join us in taking a concession so that we can balance this budget. It's not a pleasant thing. I wish I wasn't doing it. I know these people take a lot of heat over it. They're charged with spending the money that we have the best that they can. They only have so much money. That's the presentation. Are there any questions, you guys?
All right.
Yes, we're excited that Mary Jean is going to be back with us. She's a teacher at Matt. She's been on leave. She will be back this week, so we welcome her back. I think, is that the only one nation?
And 2 resignations.
We had a couple resignations. I think
Bowman.
help me out here. I guess.
Bowman and DeWolf.
Yep. Both of them resigned. We wish them well on their new endeavors. And that's that on that. And then are there any other questions on the last item, which are principal reports or leadership reports?
Then let's move on to old business, zero policy. Second read. Is there any discussion? Questions, clarification?
Pretty clear.
If not, then we'll move on. We're moving on to business action items. Looking for approval of the December 11th regular meeting minutes.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the regular minutes that were presented from December 11th, and along with that motion, I distributed closed session minutes to you all this evening, and that's what was approved also.
Second. Motion by Shelley, seconded by Jim. All those approve? Aye. All against?
Joel, are you there? Joel, are you there?
You can hear you talk loud, but
Battery tech.
It says it's connected. Joel, are you there? I wonder, hang on a second. No, I don't think it was on. Give me 1 second.
Well, John is doing that, to get that closed meeting minutes. Pass
Hey,
that.
Joel, hang on 1 second. Are you there, Joel? Joel, are you there?
I'm right here, Chad. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Joel. Joel, we missed your vote on the,
I voted affirmative.
okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's move on to the accounts payable report. Any discussion?
I would just like clarification. So Eric's contract is going to be moved to Sutton's Bay, correct? So does that, it means that our accounts payable will no longer have to host our...
If no further discussion, do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second. Okay, motion by Tom, second by Paul Warmeister. All approve?
Aye.
All against?
Any thumbs up?
$213,812.57.
Thank you. Okay, that motion is approved. We move on to approval of Neola policy. We've already had discussion, for lack thereof. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Neola policy.
Motion by Tom, seconded by Paul Warmeister. All who approve? Aye. All against? Okay, motion goes forward. Thank you. New business. We have a new item on your Neola policies.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you're being bombarded with like a little bit of catch-up, so we're going to be doing this for a while. They were included in your packet for first reading, and around the course for second before action. Included a narrative kind of explaining, and of course the full policy for reading. If you guys have any questions on it now, or if not, we always encourage to give us a call anytime. Any questions on it tonight?
You did a good job on highlighting what the changes are, so we can look at it and see what the changes
This
are.
used to be what I would talk about, and I thought, why am I doing that?
Yeah.
Give us a few minutes to speed up the process.
And Julia, did you have something to say?
Oh, yes. Well, I just wanted to take a minute and welcome you to Manistee Middle School, High School. Jason and I, if we could have a minute, just introduce our staff who showed up today. You know, the Apple Distinguished Award isn't for handing out computers, it's for our teachers who've taken risks and been innovators and leaders, not just in West Michigan or Michigan, but throughout the whole nation. So to take a minute and introduce them to you would be great. With your permission?
Yes.
Jason, do you think I'll do this half of the room? How about you do this half of the room?
Okay.
Okay. In the back, Jerry Brown teaches 8th grade U.S. history and also a section of current world affairs in the high school. Troy Whitework handles all the economics and current world affairs, and next semester, government. Sandy Slavinsky does our reading for 7th grade. She's very multi-talented. She picks up our yearbook at the middle school level too. Wendy Adamski is with us part of the day for our PE program at the high school. Chris Johnson, special education for math, and also doing our AARI program for 8th grade in the middle school.
7th grade and 5th.
And she also spends an hour at Kennedy. Take a look there. Oh, Stacy Andrews, I should say hola, for Spanish. Cassie Miller teaches 7th grade and 8th grade health and also picks up a section of, what is it this semester? Sports medicine for semester 1. And where's Brian Bain? Didn't I see him? Brian. Brian is, he's the most veteran teacher on the middle school staff. He does high school, I'm going to get quizzed on this. Okay, first hour is video productions, then 8th grade algebra, then 9th grade algebra, then 8th grade reading, then 8th grade reading, and then middle school advisory. He's what you call very multi-talented. So. Okay, and then I also noticed we have some surviving retired teachers with us, Ann Bypass and Nancy Swenson. And Jill Hunter? Oh, I didn't recognize you.
I lost weight.
Thanks, Jill.
A lot off my shoulders.
Yeah, and starting back here, Small Health Health Department, Joe Hanges, Social Studies Department, High School, Dave Rush, Special Ed Department, High School, Mike Tillman, PE, Middle School, High School, Linda Coyle, Special Ed Middle School, O'Donnell, Science, Fiction, Greg Bennett, Social Studies, Monty Klein, Art Department, 7 as well. That's everybody. We welcome you all here, and it's glad to see you. And thank you to the Board of Education.
Our National Honor Society of the high school and our middle school student council, we're going to have treats tonight, but because of our extended holiday break, I'd like to thank Kathy Dukowski for filling in. Thanks, Kathy.
Second, public communication. This portion of the agenda is for persons to address the board. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per individual. Shelley, what do you have?
We'll go right back to the spy class.
I understand what Howard was explaining here and everything, that there are some issues, but I also think that there's been some spending that I personally can't agree with. Like, I just found out last month that there were 2 new positions that were created this school year at the middle school, high school. And one has been filled by Mr. Miller, the new football coach, and the other has been filled by Mr. Cotton, who previously in his current position has been a parapro for math. I understand that Mr. Miller's job is to handle truancy issues with the students at the middle school and the high school. Prior to hiring him, that had always been handled by the principals or the assistant principal of that building. I've tried to understand what Mr. Cotton's current title is, but no one seems to know except that he's not a parapro anymore. So some of my questions that I have for you is, what is Mr. Cotton's current title? What's his job description? And where did this money come from for this new position? The same with Mr. Miller. What's the job description there? And again, where did the money come from for this new position? What has happened this year in the 2013-14 school year that hadn't been previously, that required that we create these 2 new positions, all right? And I'd also like to know how much each of these positions are costing math. Were either of these positions posted internally or advertised outside of the school system? I know legally you don't have to do that, I understand that, but to me, it just seems like there might have been somebody on Matt's staff already that may have wanted an opportunity to apply to one of these jobs, or someone out in the community. So those are just some things that I would like some answers for, and I appreciate you listening, and thank you.
Stacy Ramsey. Hi, I want to thank Howard for his presentation tonight and actually projecting some things so that the public can see what he's talking about. And that's sort of where my public comment tonight addresses that, through what I've been reading in the paper and discussions with people and community members, staff, is there's a large misunderstanding and perception on our staff's part about how money gets spent and where it gets spent and how it gets funded. So my request to the board is, like when Howard makes a presentation, is to actually present, a portion of the budget. This is where money comes from, this is how we've allocated it, this is how we amend the budget, and specifically, I came tonight to, not having read all of the letters to the editor, but one of the things that really stood out from our community as they wrote letters was about sports. How are our sports funded? Where does that money come from? How much is spent? Where, how do we hire people? I guess sort of came up tonight. So specifically to the pool, how is that funded and money spent, and specifically to sports, if you could address those things at the next board meeting, would be my request. And one final thing, can I ask one other question that doesn't? Last board meeting, you talked about Eric McNick's contract in Yes Academy, and there seemed to be a big push that contract stay here at MAPS. And I guess my question is, why did that change? That it's now, did you say it went back to Sutton's Bay? So my question is, why that changed now? Thank you.
Mike Couchman?
Good evening. My name is Mike Couchman, and I'm a proud resident of the Manistee Area Public School District. I've been a substitute teacher here for the past 7 years. The first 2 years, grades K-12, and the last 5 years, grades 6, 7, and 8. The teachers with whom I work are among the most exemplary, dedicated, hardworking, and caregiving professionals whom I have known in my 40-year career. The budget questions and considerations I will share with you are in regard to fair and equitable compensation for MAPS teachers. For your further thinking on constructive negotiating outcomes for them. How can the MAPS, some of these are redundant based upon some of the comments this evening, but these are questions that I needed to know. How can the MAPS Board of Education members develop and approve a 2014 budget based upon the assumption that the teachers union will support a 4.35% salary reduction? Do the state budgeting guidelines allow for these types of inflated expectations? And how can recent boards, I wonder, boards of education, approve $2,054,000 in athletic budgets and pool budgets over the last 5 years? Do we have an athletic program and pool program that MAPS just can't afford? Does the board have any plans to reduce spending or increase revenues in the sports and pool programs? What is the board's process of allocating the tribe's PILT grant, for the audience's purpose, which stands for pay in lieu of taxes, with regard to line items in the general fund budget? I understand the grant for this year is $756,800. Am I correct on that, Lou?
I couldn't give you the exact $750,000.
As you can, I've gone over the audits and have done a lot of researching. I know it's a time limit, and I want to get through it quickly so I can say what I need to say. To the Board of Education, and I commend you for all the fine things that you've done for the kids in our community. But relative to the negotiations, please let your conscience and your heart be your guide for our teachers in these financially challenging times. A 4.35% salary cut, with it being retroactive to September 1, would be a financial crisis to any teacher's family budget, but in the long term, devastating to what would happen to their Michigan Public Schools retirement pension. One of the things that was a banner in the former district that really helped, and we called it the 3 C's. Cognitive.
Thank you very much.
Could we address a few of these points again? We decided we weren't going to debate in public back and forth, but I think when there are things that we are prepared and can easily be addressed in a few seconds, if we could do that. Howard, if you would talk about 2 things, the pay cut being retro, and then the budgetary guidelines, and then I'll get on a couple of things.
Budgetary guidelines, as I said when I presented, build a budget based on assumptions. We consulted with legal counsel prior to bringing the budget to the board, and I followed up with them to make sure that I understood them correctly, and to insinuate that we somehow illegally adopted a budget or did something incorrectly is false and misleading. It's not the case. We build a budget based on our best assumptions that we have, and we post it for everybody to see and compare it to actual, and then as the year goes along, and there was nothing illegal may have been insinuated in that question. Secondly, on the retro 435, the proposal that we were working with, and I want to thank the bargaining team. The bargaining team has been excellent to work with, and we've worked hard since last spring trying to reach some type of equitable solution to our budget crisis. Is not retroactive. It was to take effect on December 9th. An option would be a lower amount that was retro for this 435 that started December 9th. I know it may seem like a small point, but when you're only had 174 days that you're dividing that over, it did make an adjustment. So it reduced the savings and the cash.
The couple things that I would like to address. You know, we're a public institution, so our salaries and different things are public. They can be. We've generally not thrown everyone's out there. Mine is. But we've generally not thrown everyone else's out there for viewing. And you asked what Todd and Chris Codden, Todd Miller and Chris Codden made, and I would say I'd be willing to put everyone's compensation out there, every employee in the district, but I'm not willing to put 2 people's out there. If you'll come see me, I'll give you that information. I can tell you, you'll be shocked at what Coach Miller doesn't make. It's, I believe, less than what a parapro makes because he's retired and he can only make so much. With Coach Codden, he took, well, that's not a new position, that's the point I wanted to make on that. He took over the position that used to be held by Stephanie Olson, Superintendent Olson's daughter, and that position has been around for, I don't know, well before I got here. And so that was, he assumed that position about 3 years ago, I believe. And Stacy, you brought up the question about Eric. There were 2 concerns that were brought up with Eric Rinknett's contract. One was that how he had things working did not conform to the contract of not only his contract, but the contract that governs the 3-school cooperative. And then the concern that I had was we don't want to give control over him to another district because he's the reason this program, Yes Academy, and now the cooperative has gone so well. So what we did was, we just reworded the contract, and I can't quite see it, but we reworded the contract so that it could go to Sutton's Bay, but that he could come back.
Okay, so there's isn't a...
There isn't a non-compete, yes. So, yeah, so we accomplished both items. We moved the contract to Sutton's Bay, which the agreement originally called for, yet we have the ability to hire Eric back here if that cooperative does not continue. So, and then the athletic ones, I think we'll get back to you. And I thank you all for coming, and I thank you for the public comment. That's all.
Do I have any other comments from the board? We are going to go into closed session, but do you mind if we just go ahead and do our announcements first? We have a board meeting scheduled Wednesday, January 29th at Kennedy at 7 p.m.
That's a study session with MASD. That's our last in our series of our 2-year series of our board professional development. There's no action items today.
We will have a regular board meeting on Wednesday, February 12th at Kennedy at 7 p.m. And then on Wednesday, February 26th at Kennedy at 7 p.m. on our board study session.
You need a motion. Closed session. Chris, Paul.
Oh, the Manistee River, she runs by my home. I sit on her banks when I'm feeling low. She plays with my spirit and she says my bones. She's the finest old lady that I've ever known. My daddy was blind man, although he could see. He raised up my brothers, my sister and me. He married my mama where that didn't last.
You're watching Manistee Public Access Television.
She went to Chicago and she never came home. But the Manistee River, she runs by my